Digital activists supporting Iran's wave of women-led protests hack a state television live news broadcast.
The hackers superimposed crosshairs and flames on the face of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. More details on this later in the news. Good evening. I'm CJ Hero.
And I am Nina Rich Hielago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. And now for the headlines. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. signed SIM card registration law. Big-time oil price hike set this Tuesday, October 11. 76 passengers killed after a boat capsized in a flood-swollen river in Nigeria. Venezuela landslide kills at least 25 people, more than 50 missing. And massive wave of missile attacks reported across Ukraine. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has signed into law the SIM Card Registration Act, or Republic Act number 11-934. This is the first law enacted by President Marcos Jr. in his administration. Eden Santos has the story.
I am pleased to join you here as we sign into law the SIM Card Registration Act.
Finally, the SIM Card Registration Act is now a law. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. enacted the new law in a ceremonial signing held in Malacanang Monday morning, attended by Vice President Sara Duterte, Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri, House Speaker Martin Romualdez, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin, Ilocos Norte Representative Sandro Marcos, one of the principal authors of the law, and other government officials. The new law, which seeks the registration of subscriber identity module, also aims to help the government to intensify campaigns against crimes and scams using text and online messaging. The law also ensures the personal information security of every citizen. The confidentiality clause in the SIM registration shall take effect at the point of sale, the law states.
With the signing of this act, we will finally achieve what has long been overdue, an effective means of regulating the issuance of SIM cards to curb the spread of spam text messages and scams. We will soon be able to provide law enforcement agencies the tools needed to resolve crimes perpetrated with the use of these SIM cards, as well as providing a strong deterrence against the commission of wrongdoing.
Under the SIM Card Registration Act, all public telecommunication entities or direct sellers shall require customers buying SIM cards to submit valid identification documents for their identity. Congressman Sandro Marcos is confident that SIM card owners are protected under the law.
Nonetheless, I think it will be a big help to our kababayan, and hopefully, like I said, it will have the desired effect that the bill was made for, and it will stop this fraudulent behavior and these scams from proliferating.
The new law's provisions include penalties for those who will violate the law.
Failure to comply results to the grant of authority for telecommunications entities to automatically deactivate services to the specific SIM card subscriber under the force of law. The use of false or fictitious information, the use of fictitious identities, the use of fraudulent documents or identifications to register a SIM card shall also be dealt with by appropriate penalties.
Eden Santos reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Marcos administration has convened the first Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council or LEDAC meeting. The meeting tackled priority programs of the administration, such as the National Government Right-Sizing Program and the Budget Modernization Bill, among others. Weng De La Fuente reports.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has called on lawmakers for the first Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council or LEDAC meeting in Malacanang. The 20-member council includes Vice President Sara Duterte, some members of the cabinet, and members of the Senate and House of Representatives. Today's LEDAC discussed priority measures such as National Government Right-Sizing Program and Budget Modernization Bill. The Council also tackled economic measures including the E-Governance Act and the Internet Transaction Act or e-commerce law, among others. On matters of national security, the government prioritized the National Defense Act and the ROTC and NSTP and the creation of the Medical Reserve Corps and other health developmental concerns. LEDAC also discussed the enactment of a law for the natural gas industry and amendments to the Electric Power Industry Reform Act or EPIRA. The legislature has laid down proposals for possible amendments to the COVID-19 Vaccination Program Act or Republic Act No. 11525. Created under Republic Act No. 7640 in December 1992, the LEDAC serves as a consultative and advisory body to the President as the head of the National Economic and Planning Agency for further consultations and advice on certain programs and policies essential to the realization of the goals of the national economy. Weng De La Fuente reporting for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Manila Electric Company or Meralco has announced the reduction of electric bills this October. The reduction is due to the lower charges in generation charge as well as the feed-in tariff allowance. Meralco says this month's electricity bill will be reduced by 0.072 centavos per kilowatt hour. As a result, the total electric bill per kilowatt hour this October will be 9 pesos and 90 or 86 centavos from 9 pesos and 93 centavos in September. The monthly bills for electric users consuming 200 kilowatt hours per hour will be reduced by 15 pesos. 20 pesos will be reduced for those consuming 300 kilowatt hour per hour. 29 pesos reduction for those consuming 400 kilowatt hour or kilowatt hours, and 36 pesos savings for those consuming 500 kilowatts per hour.
Oil companies will implement a big-time oil price hike tomorrow, October 11. In separate advisories, oil companies announced an increase of 6 pesos and 85 centavos per liter of diesel. 3 pesos and 50 centavos will be added per liter of kerosene or gas. Meanwhile, premium and unleaded gasoline will have an increase of 1 peso and 20 centavos per liter. Most oil companies will commence the big-time price hike tomorrow at 6 in the morning. The latest twitch in oil prices is due to the announcement of OPEC that there will be a reduction in oil production of 2 million barrels per day.
Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin asks Malacanang employees for loyalty to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Issuance of Memorandum Order No. 7 ensures security in the service of employees and officials of the Office of the President until December 31st, 2022. Vin Pascua reports.
Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin led this morning's flag-raising ceremony for palace employees at the Mabini Hall in Malacanang Complex. This is the first time that Bersamin attended the weekly flag-raising ceremony since assuming the post in replacement of resigned Executive Secretary Victor Rodriguez. In his message, Bersamin has encouraged officials and employees from the Office of the President to be loyal to the President and their sworn duty. The Executive Secretary said their services will be meaningless if they are not sincere, resolute, and compassionate.
I exhort each and every one of you, my co-workers, to be true to your oaths of office. This you can easily do if you serve with loyalty to the President. and with fealty to the spirit and letter of the Constitution. Public service becomes meaningless and empty if the public servant is not dedicated to this kind of intentional obeisance. We must endeavor to uphold the rule of law in every action that we take in the discharge of our duties and responsibilities.
Meanwhile, Bersamin assured co-terminus employees and officials of the previous administration that their service will continue until December 31st, 2022. Based on Memorandum Order Number 7, signed on September 27, 2022, all coterminus appointees of the past government will continue until the end of the year unless their appointments are withdrawn or their resignation was accepted. Bersamin also introduced Undersecretary Chelar Garafil as officer in charge to the Office of the Press Secretary in replacement of resigned Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles. Garafil said there will be changes in the OPS in the coming days.
Ngayon pa lang kami mag-meeting talaga formally on the operations ng OPS. So, tignan natin. But definitely, you'll see some changes in the coming days.
I am Vin Pascua reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Philippine National Police Chief General Rodolfo Azurin has relieved the head of the PNP custodial unit following the brief hostage-taking of former Senator Leila de Lima. The hostage-taking was perpetrated by 3 detainees who tried to escape their detention facility in Camp Crame. Azurin said administratively he relieved Police Lieutenant Colonel Patrick Ramiliano, chief of the custodial service unit, while investigation is ongoing on the lapses committed in the police security implementation. The PNP Criminal Investigation and Detection Group and forensic teams are investigating the incident. Azurin added that they also transferred de Lima to the PNP General Hospital on Sunday night to help the lawmaker rest and recover from what happened. Detainees Arnel Cabintoy, Idang Susukan, and Feliciano Sulayao attempted to bolt the facility during the distribution of food and, in the process, held hostage Police Corporal Roger Agustin and former Senator Leila de Lima. Corporal Agustin is now in the hospital and is being treated for his injuries. Former Senator de Lima was left unscathed, and both will receive all necessary medical and psychological attention needed. Cabintoy, Susukan, and Sulayao have been neutralized by responding custodial police or custodial center and PNP Special Action Force personnel. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has directed Camp Crame to enforce all measures necessary to ensure that no act of violence in the said facility and all other PNP detention centers shall happen again.
The House of Representatives has announced a 5 million peso reward for information that leads to the arrest of perpetrators in the Percy Lapid killing. The funds come from the collective contribution of the lawmakers. Vic Somintak has the story.
The House of Representatives will give 5 million peso reward to anyone who can give information for the arrest of the suspects in the killing of broadcast journalist Percival Mabasa, popularly known as Percy Lapid. House Speaker Martin Romualdez said the bounty money is from the contributions of congressmen who are worried about Lapid's assassination. Romualdez said the mastermind behind the killing should be punished. Romualdez said the government should protect those in the media profession to ensure the freedom of the press in the country, since they are partner in transparency in the government and nation building. Romualdez added that crime has no place in a democracy and civilized society. Vic Somintak reporting for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Next on Mata ng Agila International. 76 people killed in Nigeria boat accident. Russian President Vladimir Putin says Crimea bridge blast, a terrorist act carried out by Ukraine. And former U.S. President Donald Trump warns of World War III, demands immediate Russia-Ukraine peace talks. Mata ng Agila International will be right back after the short break.
Open for Business with Cesar Vallejos every Sunday, 9 p.m.
Isa na namang masaya at puno ng impormasyong araw ang ibibigay namin para sa inyo.
Kaya naman nandito naman kami para sa inyong mga ka-shoppers namin na kami ang inyong shopping buddy para tulungan kayo sa paghahanap ng mga produktong kakaiba, mura at siguradong good ba.
Regine Tolentino Atelier is a one-stop shop for any of your garment needs.
Ito po ang Shopping All the Way
with Jojo A.
Panalo tayo pag together, walang talo pag together. Let's stand together sa Net 25.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. Almost everyone on board a boat that capsized when in a flood-swallowed river in Nigeria's Anambra state died, according to President Muhammadu Buhari. He confirmed that 76 out of 85 people were killed during the boat accident. He ordered a review of safety measures across the country's water transport system. He also said emergency services must do everything to account for those missing. Buhari urged on government agencies to check the safety protocols on these transport ferries to make sure such incidents are avoided in the future. Authorities said those aboard the boat were heading to Nikpo market in Ogbakuba before it capsized. Some officials said the boat had suffered an engine failure and hit a bridge before capsizing.
A landslide in Venezuela has left at least 25 people dead and more than 50 missing after a river overflowed, officials said Sunday, in the latest deadly disaster caused by heavy rains to hit the country. Damage to properties and loss of lives were caused by the Saturday night deluge, which left the town of Las Tejerias covered with mud and debris, including fallen trees, household items, and mangled cars. Meanwhile, around 1,000 people joined the ongoing rescue efforts, while search teams brought dogs to find survivors trapped in the rubble.
Russian President Vladimir Putin sharply accused Ukraine of perpetrating a terrorist act after the Kerch Strait Bridge, an important bridge between Russia and Crimea, was damaged by a blast on Saturday. The said bridge is also a key supply route between Russia and its troops that it deployed in southern Ukraine.
Сомнений нет, это теракт, направленный на разрушение критически важной гражданской инфраструктуры Российской Федерации.
Совершенно верно.
И авторы, исполнители, заказчики, спецслужбы Украины.
Putin's comments, reported by the Russian state-owned media outlet TASS, pointed the finger at Ukraine for the attack. Additionally, Dmitry Medvedev, the deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, said to Kremlin-linked journalist Nadana Friedrichsen that Russia would look to kill the terrorists responsible for the attack. Authorities also said that at least 3 people died in the blast. The damaged bridge is symbolically significant to Putin, who drove a truck over it in May 2018 to celebrate its opening, 4 years after Russia annexed Crimea in 2014.
A chain of loud explosions rocked Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, early Monday morning, a day after Moscow blamed Ukraine for a deadly blast on the bridge linking Crimea to Russia. The explosions knocked Kyiv around 8:15 a.m. local time, and an AFP journalist in the city saw numerous ambulances appearing to head toward the scene of the blasts. Video circulating on social media showed black smoke rising above several areas in the city. The explosions came a day after Moscow blamed Ukraine for the explosion on a bridge linking Crimea to Russia. In the southeastern city or Ukrainian city of Zaporizhia, firefighters were busy clearing the rubble of a collapsed building. Authorities said that at least 17 residents were killed. They also attributed the city damage to a Russian airstrike. The latest incident was described by President Volodymyr Zelensky as absolute evil and comes the day after an explosion caused the partial collapse of Russia's key strategic Crimean bridge. Zelensky also alleged that Russia had targeted Ukraine's energy infrastructure this morning.
Вони прагнуть паніки і хаосу, хочуть знищити нашу енергосистему. Вони безнадійні. Друга мішень – це люди. Спеціально обрали.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump warned of a possible World War III when he spoke at a campaign rally in Mesa, Arizona. Trump also criticized President Joe Biden, stating that the current POTUS is saying exactly the wrong thing to Russia after the latter raised the prospect of Armageddon amid President Vladimir Putin's threats of nuclear war.
You could just look at Russia and say, see, when you talk about going to war, it's not as easy as people think. It's just not as easy. Who would have thought that would have happened? But remember, he's still got a second layer, and it's a very powerful layer. And we have to be very smart and very nimble. We have to know what to say, what to do. And we are saying exactly the wrong thing. We'll end up in a World War III.
The former POTUS insisted the U.S. should be urging Moscow and Kyiv to negotiate for peace, despite Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky ruling out peace talks after Putin declared the annexation of 4 occupied territories in Ukraine.
We have a war between Russia and Ukraine with potentially hundreds of thousands of people dying. We must demand immediate negotiation of a peaceful end to the war in Ukraine, or we will end up in World War III, and there will never be a war like this. We will never have had a war like this, and that's all because of stupid people that don't have a clue. And it's also because of the kind of weaponry that's available today.
After the U.S.-led joint military exercises in the region, leader Kim Jong-un administered North Korea's latest missile test associated with tactical nuclear drills. Back in 2021, Kim acquired smaller and lighter weapons designed for battlefield use. And this year, he promised to enhance Pyongyang's nuclear forces at the possible speed. The country revised its nuclear laws, declaring North Korea with an irreversible nuclear power, which in return made Seoul, Tokyo, and Washington to step up and combine their military exercises to conduct drills which are seen as rehearsals for invasion. Additionally, in order to determine the war deterrent and nuclear counterattack capability, military drills which continuously occurred from September 25 to October 9 were guided by Kim. North Korea's October 4 missile launch, which flew over Japan and prompted rare evacuation warnings, was aimed at sending a more powerful and clear warning to the enemies.
In a National Day speech, President Tsai Ing-wen stressed that the island would never surrender its democratic way of life to Beijing, which drew parallels with Russia's conflict with Ukraine. With the constant threat of invasion by China's Communist Party, fears had deepened to a thought that Beijing would attempt a similar way to Moscow's invasion of Russia to take control of the self-ruled democratic country of Taiwan. In her speech, Taiwan's leader said these military expansions may lead to the destruction of Taiwan's democracy and freedom, denoting a grave defeat for the world democracies. Tsai added that within the past 73 years of living and growing together, a strong sense of identity and belonging has been built within every Taiwanese, which pushes them to defend their national sovereignty and free democratic way of life, where they have no room for compromise.
最重要的是，我们必须凝聚民心士气，强化全民的防卫意识。守土卫国，从来都不只是军人的事，每一位国民都是国家的守护。
Hurricane Julia swept across Nicaragua Sunday, whipping the country with winds and heavy rains that caused flash floods and mudslides to occur in Central America and southern Mexico. According to the country's weather agency, the storm made landfall near Laguna de Perlas at 7:15 GMT, with maximum sustained winds estimated at 85 miles per hour. Meanwhile, Hurricane Julia weakened to a tropical storm in noontime as it headed westward across Nicaragua, which released a dangerous storm surge along the coast, leaving damages to homes, the country's interior, and incommunicado towns. So far, there are no fatalities recorded, but U.S. National Hurricane Center still warned the citizens of Hurricane Julia's possible effects as it gathers its strength to make another landfall, not just for Nicaragua, but for neighboring countries.
Unrest in Iran continued for a fourth week as demonstrations over the death of Mahsa Amini continues. Across the country, schoolgirls chanted slogans. Workers went on strike and protesters clashed violently with security forces. Amini died 3 days after being arrested by Iran's morality police for an alleged breach of the country's strict dress code. Authorities say she died of a long-standing illness rather than blows to the head, but her family disputes that, saying their daughter was healthy. In Tehran, protesters lit fires on the streets. At Tehran's all-female university, young women shouted, "Death to the oppressor." Norway-based Iran Human Rights says at least 195 people have died in the violence, including at least 19 children. Iranian officials accuse Western nations of stirring up the protests.
Meanwhile, digital activists supporting those protests hacked an Iranian state television live newscast. They superimposed crosshairs and flames on the face of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. A message on the screen read, "The blood of our youths is on your hands." The hack interrupted footage of Khamenei meeting state officials. Activist group Ali's Justice Claimed responsibility. It added a slogan on the screen telling people to join up and rise up. Online videos show the anchor of the newscast sitting uncomfortably in his seat after the clip finishes. The hackers added a message urging Khamenei to vacate his office and flee the country.
Up next, Thai massacre families mourn as King says, "I share your grief."
Equity and school.
U.S. Education Department issues $116 million for student equity and accessibility.
Are available and accessible for all.
And Egypt's Red Sea could be world's last coral refuge. Find out more about these stories when Mata ng Agila International returns.
mga kaganapan sa politika at talakayin, lilinawin dito sa Saganang Mamamayan kasama si Jen Sobardiaga.
Ano ang nangyari sa 12 bilyong pisong alokasyon para i-modernize ang sugar industry sa Pilipinas?
Nelson Lubao.
Pagka gasolina, pagka diesel, kung kailan nila gustong itaas, itinataas. Paano naman itong pamasahe?
At mga espesyal na co-host, Congressman Rodante Marcoleta.
Kapag hindi natin define kung ano talagang ibig sabihin ng karapatang pantao, mawawala kayo, pati yung education sector ninyo.
Totoo.
Anong i-educate mo kung hindi mo nalalaman?
Senador Francis Tolentino.
Lahat naman po tayo ay adhikain na mamuhay sa isang mapayapa, tahimik na lipunan.
Ayan.
Lahat ay nagkakasundo-sundo.
At Benny Antiport.
Yung kakulangan ng tubig, yung tagaraw. And of course, kasunod na dyan is yun na pagbabaha na yan ay masusolusyonan na rin dahil dito magkakaroon na ng mga tinatawag na irrigation system.
Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 10 hanggang alas 11 ng Saganang Mamamayan.
Heartbroken families mourn the victims of a Thai nursery massacre as the king offered his support, telling relatives he shares their grief in a rare public interaction with his subjects.
เยี่ยมเยียนแล้วก็มาให้กำลังใจก่อนอื่นก็ขอแสดงความเสียใจรู้สึกเสียใจรู้สึกเศร้าสลดมากที่มีเหตุการณ์แบบนี้เกิดขึ้น
King Maha Vajiralongkorn met survivors and relatives at a hospital in northeastern Nong Bua, Lampu province late on Friday, a day after an ex-policeman murdered 24 children and 12 adults on a 3-hour gun and knife rampage in a sleepy rural area. The king also said he would like to give moral support to the families. Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha also arrived and paid homage to the victims. He also handed out compensation checks to the grieving families. Some, struggling to comprehend the atrocity, wept inconsolably, clutching their children's favorite toys or blankets, and in one case, a half-full bottle of milk. Prayut has ordered a swift probe into the massacre, and police said they will question 180 witnesses. Senior officers have said Panya Kamrab was sacked from the police for drug abuse, while several people in the close-knit community have said he was known in the area as a methamphetamine addict.
A massive fire that broke out in the largest mall in Pakistan's capital city has been brought under control. The blaze started on the 3rd floor of the Centaurus Mall in Islamabad. The fire spread quickly to the lower floors of the shopping complex. Upper floors, where apartments are located, were also scorched by the flames. Fire and rescue crews, aided by a helicopter, have brought the blaze under control. There are no reports of casualties. Local media report that the fire started in a restaurant in the mall's food court. The building has been evacuated until it can be deemed structurally safe to re-enter. Leftist President Gustavo Petro announced that he will buy 3 million hectares of land from Colombian ranchers to redistribute it among peasants in the face of the high concentration of property rural.
Es la decisión libre de los poseedores de tierra dedicados a las ganaderías extensivas de vender una parte de tierras fértiles que tienen un mejor uso en el mundo agropecuario para ser entregados a los campesinos y campesinas de Colombia.
Petro lamented that for decades, the origin of violence has been the absurd and concentrated land tenure in Colombia. Not solving the fundamental problem generates a violence that is practically condemning the country to deprivation, poverty, lack of progress, and the death of many of its people, he added. The Petro government intends to distribute 10 million hectares to cultivate, as agreed in the peace agreement with the FARC guerrillas of 2016. Colombia is one of the countries with the most unequal distribution of land, according to the English NGO Oxfam.
The World Health Organization and its partners introduced what they call the most extensive virtual health worker. It is designed to assist people when it comes to a variety of health topics. Jeff Sanidad has the report.
Her name is Florence. She is the AI-powered World Health Organization digital health worker who can share advice on mental health, give tips to distress, provide guidance on how to eat right, be more active, and quit tobacco and e-cigarettes. She can also offer information on COVID-19 vaccines and more. World Health Organization Florence has helped fight misinformation around COVID-19 since the beginning of the pandemic. It is estimated that 1 in every 8 people in the world lives with mental disorder, with the pandemic having a significant effect on mental health. Topics offered by Florence include tobacco and unhealthy diet, killing 16 million people every year, and physical inactivity, killing an estimated 830,000. These deaths are due to diseases like cancer, heart disease, lung disease, and diabetes that can be prevented and can be controlled with the right support. World Health Organization team lead for digital channels, Andy Pattison, says the AI health worker Florence shows the potential to harness technology to promote and protect people's physical and mental health. At the World Innovation Summit for Health, or WISH conference in Qatar, World Health Organization released the beta version of Florence 2.0 to interact with scientists, public health organizations, entrepreneurs, and policymakers. WISH plans to continue to develop the digital health worker to help meet major health issues facing the world today. Florence 2.0 is now available in English, with Arabic, French, Spanish, Chinese, Hindi, and Russian to follow. Jeff Sanidad, Washington, D.C., Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
In the U.S., the Education Department issues over $116 million to fund public schools and agencies working to address equity for students and teachers in their community. Philip Toledo reports.
Recently, U.S. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona and his administration announced 19 new Magnet School Assistance Program awards totaling $110 million, as well as 4 new Equity Assistance Center, or EAC, grants totaling $6.5 million. The grant awards will fund new regional EACs to provide technical assistance to public schools and agencies working to address equity for students and teachers in their community. They also support efforts to assist in schools to prepare, adopt, and implement plans of desegregation, as well as general training and assistance in the areas of civil rights, equity, and school reform. This, the administration says, helps schools and communities ensure equitable education opportunities are available and accessible for all children. The Magnet School Assistance Program Awards will help support efforts to better academically challenging and innovative instructional approaches in magnet schools. They aim to bring students together from varying backgrounds. The grantees, spread across school districts in several states, will launch a variety of programming in all 5 areas of STEAM learning: career development, leadership skills, and language immersion. Secretary Cardona says every child has something to offer this country, and they deserve access to effective educators, inclusive and supportive learning environments, and innovative, engaging programs that unlock their potential and lead to success. He says these grants will help better serve students who too often get left behind. Philip Toledo, Atlanta, Georgia. Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
People living along the U.S. Gulf Coast and the states of Texas and Louisiana are upset with the proliferation of liquefied natural gas export terminals being constructed in the region. The huge plants liquefy the gas and then transfer it to ships for export to Europe. Demand for the gas has increased since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Residents say the plants are a threat to the environment, their serenity, and their way of life. They say people who make a living fishing or harvesting shrimp and oysters will be put out of business. Critics say waves caused by the huge ships are eroding the shoreline, and the plants are being located on wetlands that are homes to birds and wildlife. John Beard of the Port Arthur Community Action Network says there's a reason energy companies are located on the Gulf Coast.
So they take the path of least resistance, and that is with the poor and those who don't have access to lawyers and who are not as educated or knowledgeable about what's going on and how it's done. That's why they come into communities making the same old promise about giving jobs and opportunities, but yet the jobs and opportunities aren't there.
Opponents say it's horrifying to see the Biden administration approving the plans when it came in promising environmental justice and action on climate change.
In Papua New Guinea, dozens of artists, painters, and sculptors have their works up for viewing at the recently reopened contemporary art exhibition at the APEC House. In Port Moresby, Echo Hortaleza Quinola tells us more.
The well-attended contemporary arts exhibition at the APEC House is now open to the public. National Cultural Commission Director Stephen Kilanda spearheads the occasion. The 4-day exhibit captures the attention of the diplomatic corps. Over 200 pieces of artworks created by 85 artists, painters, and sculptors have their creations on display.
It has a couple of objectives. One, to give prominence to the work that they do. The second thing is to provide a marketing outlet for some of the work. To be able to bring them together and learn of each other, that's important in terms of what they do, what opportunities are there for them. So this is an opportunity for us to showcase the fine art talents. It has a story behind every painting, and it is our hope that this will tell the Papua New Guinea story a little bit more. Tell of our unique situation, what we are like. It tells us of what we think, what is important to us.
Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture E.C. Henry Leonard encourages local artists to excel in this creative industry. He appeals to the development partners to promote and market the skills and talents of their country's artists.
Papua New Guinea is full of so many different types of art, and you can see that displayed here in the different styles that the artists have. Very traditional, very modern. It's also full of young artists and old artists. So it's an honor to be here and to be able to support as part of the embassy, but also as an individual and an art lover. I definitely highly recommend coming and exploring Papua New Guinea, its culture, its art. It has so much to offer.
We don't have many local buyers. It's hard to sell paintings to our local market. But we appreciate it's only the expats that comes inside, and mostly tourists. They're very helpful. They're supportive by purchasing artworks. Please come to Papua New Guinea. There's lots of beautiful artworks here.
The Contemporary Arts exhibition also provides employment to artists who are not formally employed. Echo Hortaleza Quinola, Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Researchers dive and take notes to study coral reefs in Marsa Alam along Egypt's southern Red Sea coast to know if Egypt's Red Sea could be the last refuge for coral reefs worldwide.
To start with, coral reefs in the Red Sea are an incredibly diverse ecosystem. Recent research has shown that there are around 350 species of hard corals and around 70 species of soft corals, and also they have very high endemicity, so this essentially means that they're found nowhere else in the world.
According to a member of the Red Sea Project, Egypt's coral reefs are healthy compared to other places they have observed. Egypt's Red Sea coral reefs are resilient, which make them highly capable of recovering from bleaching. But despite of being resilient, people are still reminded to protect coral reefs and provide expanded programs for their betterment.
Newly planted mangroves growing in the briny waters of the Hamata area, Egypt's Red Sea coast, are part of a program to boost biodiversity, protect coastlines, and fight climate change and its impacts. According to Egypt's head of agriculture, Sayed Khalifa, studies indicate that mangroves can absorb 4 times more green gases than rainforests.
خصوصا ان هذا النوع النباتي له دور مهم جدا في التغيرات المناخيه. كل الدراسات والابحاث بتقول انه بيمتص غازات الاحتباس الحراري 4 أضعاف الغابات الاستوائيه، وبالتالي ليه دور مهم جدا في ظل ما يسار على زياده مياه البحر، وهو بالتالي ليه دور مهم في حمايه الشواطئ زي ما النهارده.
It is believed that the mangrove forest makes a wall blocking coastal erosion, which provides a welcoming environment for all kinds of crustaceans. The study says if an individual was about to plant mangroves where they do not originally grow, then it would add in a form of pollution. Therefore, replanting of mangroves must be in a rehabilitation setting and not a habilitation one.
Coming up, markets sink as U.S. jobs data fan rate hike bets.
How much you have to play?
Arsenal beat Liverpool to go top. Ronaldo nets 700th in Manchester United win.
We are
And Net25 wins at Asia's Pinnacle Awards 2022. These and more stories from around the globe when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Stock markets dropped today as forecast beating U.S. jobs data fanned expectations for another big Federal Reserve interest rate hike, while traders are now converging on an upcoming inflation report. A brief caucus across trading floors last week gave way to gloom as investors grow increasingly worried that central bank efforts to pacify runaway prices will plunge the global economy into recession. Adding to the stress is the imminent corporate earnings season, which many dread will show that companies are feeling the pain of tightening monetary policies. All 3 main indices tumbled Friday, with the Nasdaq off almost 4%, following news that that a net 263,000 U.S. jobs were created in September. With a spotlight on a consumer price index reading later in the week, policymakers continue to take a hawkish tone, warning they will not ease up on their rate hikes, even if that means causing a recession.
A Vietnamese car manufacturer has set its sights on the lucrative American market. The brand is known as VinFast in Vietnam and is owned by the country's richest man, Pham Nhat Vuong. VinFast would be the first Vietnamese car brand sold in the U.S. and aims to sell electric vehicles. It already has them on the streets of Hanoi. The move to the U.S. is already underway. Plans are to market a mid-sized SUV. The company has 6 showrooms in California and hopes to be making deals with customers by year-end. Despite Vuong's optimism, history tells us it can take a couple of decades for new entries into the U.S. auto market to be widely accepted. One incentive VinFast is offering is a battery leasing program to reduce the cost of the car. Once the battery life goes down to 70%, VinFast will replace it for free. Bukayo Saka's double sent Arsenal back to the top of the Premier League after a 3-2 win over Liverpool, as Cristiano Ronaldo's 700th club goal helped Manchester United to a 2-1 win over Everton.
And how much he helps the players and how much belief he gives and how much...
Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta says the club's recent win will give his team belief and confidence they can really challenge for the Premier League title this season. Meanwhile, Ronaldo has been relegated to the bench for the majority of Erik ten Hag's time in charge at United, but made his entrance on the half-hour mark to replace the injured Anthony Martial. The 5-time Ballon d'Or winner took just 14 minutes to net his first Premier League goal of the season as he latched onto Casemiro's pass before firing low past Jordan Pickford. Real Madrid's record goal scorer kicked 450 for the Spanish Giants, while he scored 101 times for Juventus and 5 for Sporting Lisbon. The Portugal captain also holds the record for goals at the international level with 117.
After just 4 games, new Chelsea manager Graham Potter seems to be gaining results with another 3-0 win on the weekend. From UK, here's Keith Dimabuyu.
Chelsea maintained their revival under Graham Potter as goals from Kai Havertz and Christian Pulisic inspired a 3-0 win against struggling Wolves on Saturday. Havertz and Pulisic finished off assists from the impressive Mason Mount before Albanian striker Armando Broja scored its first Chelsea goal in the closing moments at Stamford Bridge. Potter has now won 3 of his 4 matches in all competitions since replacing the sacked Thomas Tuchel. With Chelsea firmly back on track, former Brighton boss Potter is starting to get comfortable in the first high-pressure job of a career ascent that marked him out as one of England's brightest young coaches. Potter made 7 changes from Wednesday's 3-0 Champions League mauling of Milan, and Chelsea cruised to victory. The Blues' quiet and methodical return to form mirrors the demeanor of their understated new boss. New owners Todd Bowley and Vedad Eghbali would be forgiven for a growing sense of vindication over removing Tuchel, whose clashes with the Chelsea hierarchy over transfer policy hastened his demise. From the United Kingdom, I am Keith Dimabuyu for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Twitter locked rapper Kanye West's account after an anti-Semitic tweet was posted on his account Saturday. West has recently welcomed back to Twitter by Elon Musk through a tweet last October 8. But on the next day being back to Twitter, the Internet archived records revealed that West tweeted he was going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, and also that people have toyed with him and tried to blackball anyone who ever opposes their agenda, without specifying what group he was addressing. Containing that tweet, West's account was locked for violating Twitter's policies, and the tweet was replaced by a message from the company saying this tweet violated the Twitter rules. The policy being violated by West was not specified by the company, but a link to Twitter rules shows guidelines against hateful conduct. Moreover, Twitter did not announce how long will West's account be locked or when he will be able to post tweets again. As of now, there is no available representative from West's side to give comments.
You might call this the Olympics of the hotel industry. In Switzerland, contestants from around the globe competed in the Hotel Receptionist World Skills Championship. 16 young people took part in the event, seeking to be crowned the world's best receptionist. Dozens of spectators watched how contestants handled various scenarios played out on a set erected on the upper floor of a casino. The competition is spread out over 4 days and tests the participants' hotel reception skills. Organizer Jane Stokey says they want to see how contestants handle difficult situations.
We've got actors here, and the actors are being the guests. And in one module that's happening, there's a troublesome guest, and there's somebody booking in, and in another module, there's an ill guest.
Net25 received the Most Excellent and Transformative TV Network accolade at the recently held Asia's Pinnacle Awards 2022. Aside from this impressive honor, the TV station's personalities also accepted prestigious awards. The new president of Net25 Eagle Broadcasting Corporation, Cesar R. Vallejos, also took the award for Asia's most outstanding sales and marketing director in the entertainment industry. Vallejos also hosts Net25's Open for Business. The program aims to give information about businesses as well as what to do to have a successful business.
Now it is a Monday, and let's take a look back on some historical events that happened on this day, October 10. In 1907, the new opium law was passed by the Philippine Commission. The law was enacted for the purpose of the gradual suppression of opium and prohibiting of the importation and use of opium and the use of cocaine, except for medical purposes or medicinal purposes on and after March 1st, 1908. In 1915, Francisco Coco Trinidad, also known as the father of Philippine radio, was born. He greatly contributed to the education and professional life of media practitioners in the country. And in 1964, the Summer Olympics opened in Japan when Emperor Hirohito of Japan opened the 18th Olympic Games in Tokyo.
And to help you go through your week, here's a quote from Leigh Brown, an American motivational speaker. Don't let someone else's opinion of you become your reality.
You know, one thing that I always tell myself, if you're not paying my bills, you don't matter to me.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to have that confidence to know who you really are and not let someone else tell you that.
Always remember that. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am CJ Hero.
And I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.